Hi friends, this is Mainak Misra and welcome back to my channel. Today I will discuss with you a very important film by none other than Guillermo Del Toro, and the film is Pan's Labyrinth. Guillermo Del Toro weaves both brutality and fantasy in his classic dark fantasy and horror film Pan's Labyrinth. It is a fairy tale for the grown-ups. He shows, on one hand, the violent and brutal fight between the Falangist army of Francoist Spain and the Republican rebels. And on the other side, he portrays an imaginary fantasy world where an insect-shaped fairy, takes an innocent girl to a labyrinth where she meets a faun. And the faun tells her that she is the reincarnated avatar of the underworld, reincarnated avatar of the princess of the underworld named Moana. And he charts out 3 tasks for her in order to get back to her own kingdom. In the end, she passes away, she is murdered. However, she sacrifices her own life that takes her back to her own kingdom. In this film, Guillermo del Toro vividly shows that an imaginary, innocent fantasy world can very well exist in the midst of a violent and brutal world, if we believe so. Monsters are real, fairies are real, and the only way to escape violence and brutality is through fantasy. The film starts with an epic in 1944, and before that the epic gives a little bit background that long ago the princess of the underworld Moana dreamt of the human world. She dreamt of gentle breeze, sunshine, and blue sky. Eluding her gatekeepers, she escaped and visited the human world. However, her arrival was not a happy one. She was blinded by the sunlight. Sunlight erased her memory. She became mortal and eventually died. However, the king of the underworld did not lose hope. He remained optimistic for her return to his kingdom. And that's why he built labyrinths across the world. And back in 1944, a young girl, 10 years old young girl named Ophelia, travels to her stepfather's military outpost along with her pregnant and sick mother, Carmen. Her stepfather, Captain Vital, is fighting the Republican rebels who have taken shelter in the adjacent jungle. When their car stops midway, An insect-shaped fairy appears in front of her and takes her to a labyrinth. And it tells her that she is the reincarnated avatar of the princess of the underworld named Moana. However, she is refrained from entering the labyrinth by the housekeeper of Captain Vital, Mercedes. That night, the fairy reappears in front of Ophelia and guides her to the labyrinth where she meets a faun whose head is of a goat and human and legs are of a tree with earthy substances. The faun tells her that she is the reincarnated avatar of Princess Mon of the underworld and gives her a book which has three tasks written in it. If she can accomplish those three tasks, then she will achieve immortality and access to enter her kingdom. Ophelia accomplishes the first task by getting the key from the belly of a giant toad. Her mother suffers illness, and as a remedy, the faun gives her a mandrake root that needs to be dipped in milk and blood and placed beneath her mother's bed. Ophelia accomplishes the second task as well by getting a dagger from the chamber of the pale man. However, she disobeys Fawn's instructions and eats two grapes that awakens the pale man and he eats two fairies. The Fawn rebukes her and dismisses the third task. Captain Vital becomes more and more ruthless in destroying the Republican rebels. He falsely identifies two innocent farmers as rebels and kills them. He brutally tortures a captive rebel and kills Dr. Ferreiro when he sympathizes with him and euthanizes him. Ophelia strongly despises her stepfather. Carmen throws the mandrake root into fire and immediately suffers a very severe pain. She dies while giving birth, but her newborn baby survives. Ophelia becomes all alone, but Mercedes stands beside her very strongly. She fills her with love and affection. But Mercedes is found to be a supporter, sympathizer, and spy of the rebels. She tries to flee, taking Ophelia along with her, but they are caught by Vidal's soldiers. Ophelia is enclosed in a room and Mercedes is taken for interrogation. But she escapes the interrogation by slitting Captain Vidal's mouth. The fairy again reappears and they pardon. He pardons Ophelia and gives her the third task. Ophelia takes her brother to the labyrinth, where the faun tells her to spill out some blood from her brother's body, but she outrightly declines. Captain Vital pursued her earlier, and he sees her there, snatches the baby, and shoots her. But when he comes out, he is already surrounded by all the rebels. Knowing fully that death is inevitable, he hands over the baby to Mercedes. Her brother Pedro kills Vidal. When the droplets of Ophelia's blood fall down the labyrinth, she achieves immortality and the access to her kingdom. She sits beside her father, the king of the underworld, and he tells her that she achieved immortality because of her sacrifice. She did not allow taking out blood from her brother's body. Princess Moana ruled the underworld for many years, and her existence in the human world can be found out by those people who know where to search. Guillermo Del Toro weaves two parallel worlds, portrays two parallel worlds. In one world, he shows violence and brutality. He vividly shows the true face of Francoist army. Ordinary people are tortured, murdered. Innocent people are kept captive and brutally tortured. Violence, bloodshed, massacre were the phenomena of every day. People really suffered during that time. And in the other world, he shows an innocent fantasy world of Ophelia, which is full of fairies, dreams, monster, and a faun. However, these two worlds do not remain parallel always, they intersect with each other. Ophelia's fantasy world gets disturbed and affected by Vital's ruthlessness. Del Toro clearly shows that monsters and fairies are less detrimental than the human world. If we believe that those are real, and he hails the fantasy world in this film. Another very important concept that he shows that immortality can be achieved only through sacrifices. When the faun asks Ophelia to spill out some blood from her brother's body, she outrightly declines and sacrifices herself. Because of that, she is murdered by Vital. Because of that, she achieves immortality and taken back to her own kingdom. She again becomes the Princess Moana. Del Toro shows that only when we sacrifice ourselves for others, we become immortal. The great souls who sacrifice their lives, who preach love and peace, are never forgotten. Del Toro also shows that how we need and embrace the last resort. Initially, Carmen was Ophelia's last resort, but when she passes away, Mercedes becomes her last resort. She was completely lonely. She was protected and loved by Carmen. But when she dies, she becomes very lonely. And who will give her company, protection? Mercedes fills her with joy, affection, love. And then when Ophelia unfortunately passes away, then Mercedes becomes the last resort for her newborn brother. Del Toro shows that how we all need somebody by our side to be filled with affection, love, help. Somebody needs to stand beside us in the most difficult times. This film is Pan's Labyrinth is totally based on Del Toro's fantasies throughout his life. His childhood days were filled with fairies, monsters, fantasies, and he used to write those in his diary. And once he forgot his diary in a taxi in London. However, he got it back. He would dream that a fawn would come out of his grandfather's clock midnight every day, whose head is half goat, half human, and trees are of a tree with earthy substances. So the screenplay is extremely detailed with all minute descriptions of the fantasy world. However, Del Toro clearly stated that it is not Pan, it is Faun, as per the Roman mythology. However, the English, German, and French titles refer to Greek deity Pan, but he clearly stated that it is Faun as per the Roman mythology. So his actors are also had to follow detailed instruction, and those are based on the minute details of his screenplay. After more than 100 auditions, Ivana Baquero was chosen to play Ophelia, and she did outstanding job. Maribel Verdú was chosen to play Mercedes, a rebel sympathizer, because of her melancholy and sensitive face and look. And the portrayal of Captain Vital by Sergio Lopez is one of the most brutal, violent, ruthless villains in cinema history. Del Toro used very little CG and mostly animatronics and heavy makeup. And Doc Jones played both the pale man and the fawn, so it was not easy for him to play both. He would sit 5 hours every day to wear the makeup and did outstanding job. It was very difficult task, especially playing both the characters. Javier narrates music and especially the lullaby, which consists of multiple soundtracks, touches hearts. It resonates with the central theme of the film. Cinematographer Guillermo Navarro did outstanding job, and he magnificently chose multiple shades of color. He used the dull bluish and greenish color for the brutal world and bright red, crimson and gold color for Ophelia's imaginary world. Brilliantly shows the difference between both situations, and constructing these complex images is not an easy task. It resonates, it absolutely, the dynamism of cinematography is as per the dynamism of the screenplay and direction. So we have to really appreciate cinematography here. Pan's Labyrinth received Six nominations at the 79th Academy Awards and won three: Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Makeup. It received eight nominations and won three in at 60th BAFTA Awards, and it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the 64th Golden Globe Awards. And this is one of the most remarkable films, especially in fantasy and horror genre. But however, you can have a, always I request you to see this film. It's a very important film for everybody, not only who likes or love fantasy, but everybody who appreciate good cinema. Even though it caters to the fantasy and horror genre, but ultimately it's a much bigger film with multiple philosophical aspects as well. So you can't miss this film. Please see this film, and request goes again, please subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon so that you do not miss regular updates. And until I make the next video, thank you so much for watching. Thank you and bye.